Hi there, welcome back to my channel. So I did some shopping around Black Friday for once, and since they were bullet journal and stationery related, I thought I'd share my little haul with you, do some unboxing and test the supplies. I usually try to use things I already have at home so I don't go overboard in buying things and having to store them, so I try to be intentional with my stationery purchases. Also, let you know the cost of each item and shipping times just for reference. That being said, I'm so happy to share with you my new materials, and let's get on to the unboxing. First up is my package from Maisie Lane Co. I was in search of a new journal for 2022 since I knew I need to move into a new notebook for the new year. Previously, I've only had soft-bound flat lay notebooks, and my last one spectacularly fell apart. I've referenced this multiple times in previous videos. I'd seen Maisie Lane Co.'s journals around YouTube and Instagram, and after scanning through their site, I came across this lovely A5 sage green notebook. I like that the front covers don't have designs, and instead the design is on the spine, which is a gold foil doodle of sage leaves. Each of Maisie Lane's journals allow for personalization on the front cover, and you have 2 lines to write whatever you want, and there's a selection of colors and font styles. You can also request to see a preview of what the personalization looks like, which is awesome. I ended up sticking with just 2022 because I didn't want to put my name or any other phrase on the cover. The cover is a soft vegan leather, which feels really nice and thick. There are 192 pages of thick 160 GSM semi-smooth white paper. My previous journals have been about 144 pages and 100 GSM, so I'm excited to have more pages so I can hopefully have one journal for the whole year. The journal also has 2 sage green satin bookmarks, which is great. What I didn't expect was this cute ruler that's included in the purchase. I like that it's the width of this A5 notebook, so it's perfect for setting up spreads. It also has a back pocket flap at the end of the notebook, which is handy to put notes, scraps of paper, whatever else I want to put there. Overall, I'm really happy with this purchase. I only wish the green shade was a little darker. I expected it to be the color of the tissue paper, not the actual green you see on the cover. I knew Maisie Lane was going to have a Black Friday sale, and for that reason, I actually ordered my notebook about a month before at the end of October. This journal retails for $32 US, and I did use an affiliate code to get 15% off. I used Mochi Bujo's code, who actually introduced me to this company and these journals from her videos. It took about 10 days from submitting my order to arriving on my doorstep, so that was actually pretty good. Next up are my purchases from Archer & Olive. I almost bought a journal from them, but they didn't have the size and colors I wanted, but there were other things that I've been interested in. They had a huge Black Friday sale where everything was 45% off, and many items were not going to return once they were out of stock. So that's what compelled me to finally make a purchase. I purchased this A5 Neapolitan notepad. I was originally going to buy a whole bunch of craft paper since I wanted to use it for collaging, but I thought the notepad was a better decision because it includes extra white paper, craft paper, and black paper. The papers also have dot grids on them, so I can align it with my journal and write or draw over it really easily. These pages are also 160 GSM, and this notepad has a total of 160 pages in the pad. The pages are also perforated, so it's super easy to tear them off and use them wherever else you want. I'll actually be doing some swatches with these pages in each color, which is why I didn't do them in my journal. The papers feel about like the same weight and thickness in my hands, so I think it'll actually be a similar experience even though they are actually different brands. I'm actually proud because I did some strategizing with this purchase, so I actually got more than what I originally planned for. The other purchase I made were the acrylograph pens. I debated on buying a set, but those were $38 US for 10 pens. The individual pens retail for $5.29 each, and with the sale, they're about $2.90 each. The pens come in 2 sizes, 3mm and 0.7mm, and I bought 2 in the 0.7. I watched multiple videos about how to use them, but I still wasn't fully sold. To figure out how to use these pens, I took my current journal to activate and practice with the pen. First, I took the goldenrod and shook it to get the ink going. These are water-based acrylic ink pens, so it's basically a paint pen. You'll hear the ink shaking around in it. You can see that I didn't shake it enough first, and the nib has no ink on it, so I had to do it for a longer time. Elizabeth from Plant Based Bride recommends about 20 to 30 seconds, and that actually did the trick. You can see the difference in the nib now since it has the ink in it. So I just pushed down on the page a few times and then did a few strokes on the page until the ink started flowing out. I found it pretty easy to work with once you get the ink activated. It's like writing with any other pen or marker, and it was really smooth. You can see that the color is matte and the ink is wet when you first apply it, especially if you're filling in spaces like that little box, but it does dry pretty quickly. Like I mentioned earlier, this Denic notebook is 100 GSM, so there is some ghosting onto the other page. Next is the cool gray, because I wanted this to be kind of like a matte silver, since I figured having these metallic colors can be used on so many spreads. Again, I didn't shake it enough so the ink did not come onto the nib, so make sure you shake for at least 20 seconds and don't half-heartedly shake it. Now the ink is on the nib and it flowed pretty easily from there. It's also matte like the gold, and I think all of the colors in any of the sets are matte. I ran my finger over it after I wrote it and held it up closer, and so the ink had already dried up by then. That gray block was still wet, as you can see, so more ink will naturally take longer to dry. Using my Archer and Olive pad, I decided to do a few comparisons between the pens and the different pages. For a regular black pen, I took my Sakura Pigma Micron pen, which in the size 05, which is actually 0.45 millimeters. This is a pen that I often use for outlining and headings. And then I swatched the Goldenrod and the cool gray acrylograph pens. As you can see when I flip the page, there's no ghosting or bleeding at all, so there's a big difference between 100 and 160 GSM. I tore this page out just to see how easy it would be, and it tore off super smoothly. There were no extra bits, and it wasn't hard to pull it off at all. Next, I swatched the pens on the craft paper. First I did the Pigma Micron, and then I swatched the Goldenrod acrylograph pen. Both of these show up well on the craft paper. However, when I got to the cool gray one, you can see that's hard to read on the light brown craft paper. I also wanted to see how white gel pens would work on these papers, since previously I've used some really thick craft paper that was almost like cardstock and was difficult to write on with a white pen. I took my Sakura Jelly roll pen in size 10, I think that's the size, and you can see that it glided really easily across the page. Except for the cool gray, they all showed up really well on the page, and I'm really glad I did this test so I could see that it wouldn't work on craft paper. Then I moved on to the black paper. I'm actually really excited for the black since I've never really used it in my journals before, and it's a totally new element to experiment with. I of course skipped the Pigma Micron since it's in black and it wouldn't show up, so I swatched the acrylographs first. I'm pretty sure these acrylograph pens were designed with the black paper in mind, so they showed up really well on the page. I was pleasantly surprised. I also swatched my white gel pen just to see how it would show up, but I knew it would work well on black paper. If you do want to make a purchase from Archer and Olive, you can use the referral link below in the description box and get 10% off. This is not an affiliate link. I do not know Archer and Olive personally, but this is a regular customer referral link where if you refer a friend, you both get a discount. So if I refer 5 friends, I would get $25 off and my friends would get 10% off. And again, all of the products mentioned in this video are also in the description box below. Okay, moving on. The rest of these purchases are Amazon purchases. I've been wanting alphabet letter stamps for so long. I already have my theme and layouts planned for 2022, and I'm definitely going to be using these stamps in it. I bought the set for $14.99 US, and I also have Amazon Prime, so everything that was part of this order came in 3 days from me placing it. I really like the little wooden box the stamps come in, and it closes with this little clasp. The inside of the cover does have these weird dings and holes in it, but it doesn't really bother me. If anything, it adds to the whole vintage look. I think what really appeals to me about these stamp sets is that they kind of looks like a letterpress. I'm not sure why I have an appreciation for letterpresses, but I do. The letters on the wooden blocks are a little hard to read because this wood is darker, and there were sets that were lighter, but I think I felt like this was more of a reasonable price. It had pretty good reviews, so I'm fine with it. I can read it. It comes with a full set of both lowercase and uppercase letters, as well as numbers 0 through 9, and some commonly used symbols like the ampersand and exclamation point. Part of me wishes the stamps were larger, but I couldn't find any letter stamp set that was larger than this one, so this kind of seems to be the standard size. I also bought a simple black ink stamp pad since I no longer have any stamp pads at home. Forgive me for if I pronounce this wrong, but this is a Tsukineko full-size stays-on multi-surface ink pad. They recommend keeping this plastic covering inside when not using the ink pad, so I'm going to be careful with this insert instead of just casting it aside like I was originally going to do. Luckily, sometimes I read instructions, which is surprising. I bought this for $9.99 on Prime, but as of this week of this recording and publishing this video, it's actually $6.99 on Prime. So a few of these things actually went on sale after I made the purchase after Black Friday, which was kind of weird. I brought back my test pages to see how the stamps and the ink would fare on the white and craft papers. And of course, right as I started using the stamp pad, I got ink on my thumb. I always end up staining my hands when I'm working with markers, pens, stamps, you name it. It did wash off pretty easily, so that was a relief, and kind of glad I actually had to test that out too. I pressed the tea pretty hard into the ink, as you can see, and after subsequent tests, I don't think you actually need to go in that hard. You can see that the stamp picked up the ink really well and it comes out nice and dark. It also didn't leave too much of a border on the edges from the stamp or the wood block, which is awesome, especially considering I really pressed the stamp in to get all the ink. The stamps are about the size of one square on a dot grid page. Again, this is an A5 page, which works well for me because that's typically the size that I write words in. I use that square height and width. Overall, the stamps and ink came out really well on the page. One or two of them left a very faint border from the block, but I kind of like that effect because it makes it look imperfect and it gives it that like rustic feel. Next, I moved on to the craft paper and decided not to press the tea back into the stamp pad to see how much residual ink was left over. It actually did produce a pretty good imprint, so you could potentially use the stamp at least 2 times before having to refill on ink. Overall, this came out pretty well on the craft too. To clean off the stamps a bit, I just continued to stamp it onto the page until no more ink remained. In hindsight, I should have properly cleaned them off, which apparently you can just do with soap and water, as long as you don't soak the stamps or like the wood blocks in water. You can also use baby wipes while you're using stamps in the moment, just to like quickly wipe them off. And I know there are also stamp cleaners that you could purchase, but I'll keep that in mind moving forward. Next are these vintage scrapbook papers. I normally would not buy something like this, but I don't have any old books or pages or random scraps lying around or books that I'd be willing to tear out, so I thought these would be really cool to have. I'll start with the larger set first, and there are 150 pieces in here. These might be a little pricey at $14.99, but the pages are pretty bigger compared to other options. I like that there were multiple paper packs, and the size is about 17 by 12 centimeters, so they're actually pretty big, and I can use these in my A5 notebook. Each set also has this clear sheet on top to protect it, which I could also use for collaging, which is pretty cool. I collect a lot of materials for my packaging and just other random stuff that I come across at home that I could use in the future since I want to be able to reuse things. I'm going to keep that Maisie Lane tissue paper because I really like the color and I think I could definitely use that in the future. You can see that there are different designs and words written across the pages, such as like anatomy stuff, menus, and even excerpts from Alice in Wonderland. You can also hear how thin and see how thin this paper is. So I like that it won't weigh down my pages too much. I will keep this in mind to be careful with glue because I feel like the pages might get soggy easily. Next is a smaller pack, which actually has 2 small boxes of vintage style scrapbooking stickers. These are 110 pieces and it retails for $6.99. You can see that there are a variety of designs in these packages. There's maps, stamps, and other signs, and some of them are slightly transparent, so that'll be really cool to layer with other elements. I bought these because they were stickers and I could easily adhere them onto pages. And I did read the reviews before I got them, and a lot of people warned that the scrapbook papers have a clear backing on the back, but you couldn't peel anything off to stick them somewhere. So there's no adhesive on these pages. I don't know why these are advertised as stickers, but they are definitely not, as you can see. I'm hoping I can still glue them in without any issue, so hopefully this wasn't a wasted purchase. The other vintage set has different flower images, signs, shopping tags, and other small items. Again, you can't peel any backing to give way to a sticky side, so that is disappointing, but I was warned by reviews, but I still took the risk. And finally, the last item from this haul. This isn't bullet journal related, but I know a lot of my stationery people love their tea, coffee, and love accessories like cute cups and glasses. I've been wanting these can-shaped glasses for a while after seeing them on Instagram and TikTok for months. The challenge though is that each set was huge. I don't need 6 or 10 or 12 of these glasses. I finally found a set of 2 that retails for $17.99, and right now they're actually $15.69. Each glass fits 20 ounces. They're not dishwasher safe, and it says to wash it with cold water, so they do require hand washing. I've already used them a couple times for soda and iced coffee, but I haven't put a hot liquid in it yet, so I thought I'd test it on camera. I borrowed this tea from a large tea gift box my aunt got from this Dubai-based company, Feel Good Tea Co, and I took these ocean blue tea leaves. This tea has butterfly pea, flower, and lemongrass, and it will become blue once it starts steeping. I boiled some water with my water kettle off screen and poured it into the glass. As you can see, thankfully it didn't crack or shatter the glass, so at least these glasses can withstand heat. I steeped the tea for about 5 minutes and you can see that it turns this brilliant shade of blue. I didn't taste anything from the pea flower, so I only got that lemongrass flavor, which was fine, but it wasn't too strong of a taste. I also heard that if you put lemon into the tea, the acid in the lemon will change the color of the tea because it changes its pH balance. And I only had a lime on hand and you can see that it totally did, it worked. It became purple. Thanks for sticking around and watching this video, and talk to you in the next one.